Hey, good evening. It's Sunday, November 13th. I don't usually do a video on Sunday, but one of the faithful followers of our videos in the channel raised the question about the importance of leaves falling to the ground and about losing our life. And I thought it was such an appropriate comment because nothing else helps us to make sense of the Christian life apart from that perspective. When we read in the Gospels, in Matthew, Jesus says this. He said to his disciples, "If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will find it. What good will it be for a man if he gains the whole world and yet forfeits his own soul?" Again, Jesus is saying, whoever who wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will find it. See, this applies very much to salvation, but we make, I think, a grave error when we restrict it only to salvation. Jesus is talking about our whole life because he died to save us, our entire lives, not just a moment in time, but a whole life that is to be lived for the honor and glory of God instead of my own. You notice this tree behind me. There's some evergreens behind it. They'll keep their green all through the winter. But this tree, it's lost its leaves. And if it didn't lose the leaves, there wouldn't be any spring. There wouldn't be any renewal. And what Jesus is telling us here, if you want to hang on to your life, you're going to lose it. If you can just think with me for a minute and not compare yourself to other people, not think about the wrongs done to you and any of that, just have the courage to look with me for a moment in the mirror and look back at ourselves, at that person in the mirror. That's the person whose life has to be lost. You see, we're doing it our way, and we fight to hang on to our way of doing it. And what has that done for us? We only get more upset, more desperate, more concerned, fighting to hang on to something that is killing us, literally. We want to hang on to those leaves, but if that tree hung on to its leaves, it wouldn't survive. Whoever wants to save his life will lose it if he lives it for Christ. But if we want to hang on to our life, if we want to fight for what we are, we want to fight for the mess that we've made, we're going to lose that fight. See, this is not simply about a salvation moment. This is about a salvation life. This is about a life of not being consumed with what we want, being consumed with what God wants. See, that's what Jesus is talking about here. Will we lose our lives for his sake? Or will we keep our lives for our sake? And again, I get to ask, how's it working out for us to hang on to our lives for our sake? All we do is make a bigger mess. We get more upset with other people. We point the finger at everybody else in the entire universe. We say, yeah, I messed up, but look at all these other things that have happened to me. But the example that Jesus leaves us is he laid down his life for us. He didn't hang on to his life. And he had every reason to keep it because his life was perfect, unlike you and me. You see, only Jesus can play the perfect card, if you allow that term. We can't. we have to play the blame card. And every time you and I play the blame card, we are trying to keep our lives for ourselves. And that's not a pretty picture. Christ's words are just amazingly powerful. Think of them in terms of other than just a moment of salvation. Think of them of an entire life of love. Remember, Jesus defines love as someone who lays down his life for others. Jesus said to his disciples, "If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." In other words, he must bear the burdens of what God's called him to. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for me will find it. What good does it do to keep all this stuff and lose our life? See that tree behind me? In a few months from now, it'll be full of the rich beauty of spring. It's lost its leaves, and it will live. We need to lose the things that you and I are hanging on to so deeply, so tightly. We're afraid to let them go. But the tighter we hang on, the more desperate we get, and the more we lose the very essence of life. But if we can let it go, we can lose our life by following Christ, by living the way that he's called us to instead of fighting to hang on for our own life. That's what brings hope. That's what brings renewal. That's what brings life. Not just in the immediate moment of salvation, but for the entirety of our walk with God. And so thanks to my good friend who made this observation. I think Sunday's a perfect day to look at it. Think about that tree. Let's lose our lives. Lose the things that we're fighting so hard to keep up with, and hang on to. And trust that Jesus has a better way than the way that you and I have planned out for ourselves. Because our way, frankly, it hasn't worked out very well for us. But living our life to Christ, losing our lives so that we can live his life and know the beauty that's there before us, that's where our hope is. Let this fall season remind you of that. It's a really, really good thought. And again, thanks for being with me today. And Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow on Monday.